My name is Ann Starr. How about we go back further and I'll say Ann Bamford Starr. Yeah. I was born in St. John, New Brunswick, and it was the 30th of April, 1924. And I was the youngest of a family of 4. So I had 2 big brothers and a sister and myself. I've lived in Ontario for many, many years, and also out in BC, but somehow or other, the basic thing about me is that I'm a maritimer, because I think that it has given me a lot of strength throughout the years. When you go back to think about those days, you're looking at a big body of water called the Bay of Fundy. We used to have what we called the dulcing tides, when the tide would go out even further, and we would go down with big bags and we would walk for all through the mud flats until we got to the rocks. And we pick off the dulse, put it in these bags, and then carry them all the way back and then dry them on the rocks on the shore. We just knew how to look after ourselves. And we'd have bonfires and we'd cook potatoes and dig for snails and boil them up and eat them. So things like that kind of take you back to, I would say, a bit of a more rugged childhood. On a Saturday night, we would all go up to what we called the skating rink. And my sister Audrey and myself and the Brannan girls would walk out, walk all this distance in a freezing night, carrying our skates. We'd get up to this skating rink, which was a big one in my estimation, and it had a shack up there, and in the shack there was a fire, wood and fire and everything, and we would go in and put our skates on, which were absolutely frozen by this time, and we would skate for the evening and have a wonderful time. When the ice was gone and everything, I was on roller skates, which I roller skated all over West Side. We could skate right down the highway because there were no cars around, or very few. Yeah, I just flew on those skates. And I remember I got going down a hill and I didn't know how to stop. And so I saw a post, like a lamp post. So I steered for that and hit it. And I guess I flew off, but that was my only way of stopping. Maybe I was a bit of a daredevil, although I just put it down to everybody else did the same things. I would do things like other girls did, and I had to always pay the consequences. Unless you've ever had an asthmatic attack, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if we'd go into the countryside, I would come back home and I would be sick with asthma and all that kind of stuff. We'd come home and then Audrey would be disgusted with me because I was sick again. And she didn't like it. And so she said to me once, she said, "I think we should build you a glass cage and put you in it." Then she said, maybe we could go away somewhere and have a good time and you wouldn't be sick. So she wasn't very sympathetic. My parents came from England. They were the only 2 to come to Canada. So it left us with a very small family, no relatives. And then my mother died when I was very young. So many people didn't know us. We didn't have any family to go to. I was probably more fascinated with people who had a mother. And, so anyway, so you just got over everything. You just did it. And that was basically, I think, the only way that we had to deal with it. So as far as my father goes, I think he was very harsh, but also you have to admire what he did, because he had a family of 4, and he had to provide a living for us, and so he was away a lot, and it wouldn't be easy for a single man to bring up a family of 4. But we all survived, and we all did it together, and just seemed like a normal thing to us. I was the baby of the family. My brothers were 10 years older, 10 and 8 years older, and Audrey was 3 years older. But the boys had a particularly hard time because they grew up knowing harsher things than I did. I was probably more protected because I was younger, but for the boys, I think it was a hard life down there. Of course, then they, as all young men, they went overseas with the Air Force, and so that was tough. It was fun, I think, to have 2 big brothers. That was great. My brother, Richard, he was called Dick, which is probably a funny name now, but he was great. He loved mechanics, and he would always be finding a different car to fix up, and anyway, they were really old ones. And so I remember one time they picked me up after school and were taking me home, and the car broke down in the middle of the street, and but I sure did love going anywhere he would take me, and because I was always with these older boys who were so much fun to be with, When I met your granddad, Tommy, it was our thing that we put on a dance every Saturday night for the sailors, soldiers, or airmen, whoever wanted to come in. And Tommy was one of them. He didn't know what to think of St. John, and I think he was kind of homesick, and so I said, well, why don't you come over to my house some Saturday night and we'll have pork and beans, which he didn't know anything about. So he came over, and he just, we had pork and beans and steamed brown bread or whatever it was, and he thought he had a wonderful time. He was always hungry. So then he came over for other meals, and that way he began to get a little bit more familiar, and everybody liked him in the family because he would laugh. He could make us all laugh. And sometimes, we didn't laugh enough maybe. But with him, he was good-natured, and it was just fun to have him around. He had a country life, and we had a city life. And it was a great distance apart. His idea of having a good time was probably hoeing potatoes or something. So anyway, we got married. He phoned me up one day from Ontario. So he said, how'd you like to get married? And so I said, well, I hadn't thought about it. So anyway, before they hung up, I said, yeah, we'll get married. So anyway, we were married. I think we had known one another possibly, well, it couldn't have been 6 months. I think we met, say, in February, maybe January, February. And we were married in October of the same year. You did things fast because it was wartime, and a lot of the boys that I knew, say, from high school, weren't coming back. That's kind of how it went, and there was a lot of people did a lot of things very, very quickly and regretted it for the rest of their lives. But fortunately, Tommy and I hung on, and we went through family life and all the ups and downs of that, and survived 61 years after, after a very, very short courtship, shall we say. I'm proud of my family. I have my 2 sons and my daughter and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, and that makes home to me. I think it's the people in my life that would be responsible for my happiness, that I've been happy that way. I don't really believe too much in luck. We all would like to be spared certain things, and we just cannot govern any of that stuff. We just have to live with it. You have to learn to live with what you're given. Maybe, I guess if I could be analyzed, maybe I've been a bit of a fighter. I think maybe quite a bit of a fighter in my time, that I've had to stick up for myself. And I think mostly because it comes from the fact that you are small and you feel put down at times. And as I say, I've always fought back. You can go on forever fretting about something and blaming somebody else for things that have happened to you, but when it really comes down to it, you have to realize that you have to take responsibility for your life, and there's not much point in complaining about it. You have to just get on with it and make the best of it once again. I kind of repeat myself on that, and I don't know that it's always worked, but anyway, we could give it a try.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked